Hello there, it's me, M.Strange, back with a talking shitty drawing video. Something I've been thinking about a lot, and I wanted to share with you and get your thoughts on this, alright? So, if you're a young person, hey, young people, uh, if you were born into the world of mobile phones and social media and all that. See, I don't even have a mobile phone. I never had one, so I don't know what they look like. This is me trying to draw one, but it looks more like a Game Boy. But, so this is a phone, right? So, if you're born into the world where people are already addicted to mobile phones and using them all the time, what I'm talking about may seem strange because it's hard to imagine a world where everyone was not on these all the time, everywhere, right? So, let me just share my experience. So, I'm an older man. So, I grew up without mobile phones, right? And then I've seen it turn into the world with 99% mobile phone penetration in the US at least. Where everyone has one, they're on them all the time. I've never had one, so I'm always an outsider looking at these people that do this thing, right? So, but you don't have to be me to notice that everybody, well, not everybody, but the large majority. Like, here's a human, here's his little arms, and here's his phone or tablet, whatever, and he's looking down at this thing, right? So people walking around, people walk by. I take my cats out every day, and I watch the people in the street, right? So people are like walking on a phone and they're looking at it, or they're talking, or there's this girl that rides her bike past every day, and every day I just see the top of her head like this, right? Riding past on a bike, and she's looking down at her phone every day. I don't know how many days it's been, like 50 days, and just the phone, right? I don't have to tell you, this is everywhere, right? Everyone's peever. Like, I look at the cars driving by, and I look in the car, and the person driving has a phone in their hand, and the person on the passenger side is like looking the other way at a phone. Like, it's everywhere. I don't have to tell you, right? I didn't have to draw my shitty pictures. You know this, okay? So now in today's world here in America, everybody's on a phone all the time. It just seems like they can't survive without them, right? They can't sit and be quiet for 2 minutes without pulling this thing out, looking at it. They get uncomfortable, looking at their phone. At least that's how I see it. I know many, probably most all of you are like this, so I don't mean to offend you, or maybe I do, but it's just is always weird to me, right? But that's not the topic of this video. You can go read tons of articles about how people are addicted to phones, blah, 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 blah. Your parents probably take your phone away because they're like, you need to pay attention because you're just always looking at your phone, and you're like, Mom, but Instagram, what's up? Oh, I'm famous. Whatever. Besides that, let's make a new one. Okay. So my question to you, this is the one I'm asking myself, is, so let's make a line, right? So let's say mo phones, prima phones, right? So this is time before 99% mobile phone penetration. And this is, let's call it the phone age. After the phone age. Okay. So, human life has not changed that much, right? It wasn't some radical shift. It was like the wheel in the wheel, or we had fire, or we didn't have fire, or the pre-industrial age, the industrial age. Not that much has changed. We got a lot of apps, we got phones, right? But, so now the average person is, let's just say, these are his arms. This is how I'm going to call it an it, spends most all of its waking out, as much time as possible. They're on this thing, right? Everywhere, all the time. So there's time. How can we make an icon for time? Like a hourglass, right? So this is time, right? All right. So, and then the prima phone phase, we had the same time. Time didn't speed up. Time didn't slow down. The days were just as long. The Earth spun just like it spins now. I'm sure there's some Aspies are going to be like, well, actually, it's 3.14. You know what I'm saying, Aspies. Just chill out, dude. Come on. Come on. So, this is the person before. right? And I don't mean to discriminate. I'm an Aspie myself. I'm just, you know, very high functioning, and I was able to pick up on social cues through learning about animation and body language, etc. So yeah. All right. So there was people. Whoa. There was people pre-phones, right? And these are the phone people. So there was the same amount of time in the day. There was roughly the same amount of time people were working. People were free. People still walked around, took trains, drove, did all the same stuff, right? But now, all their time, free time, or however much time they can spend is spent looking at this device, right? Is in the phone. I don't have to tell you. You know this everywhere, right? What was lost here? What did this person have that this person doesn't have? Now, because everyone's going to say, well, this person didn't have Google and the world and at their fingertips. They couldn't learn anything at any time. We already know all that stuff. We know the, quote, positives of the mobile phone app era, right? Like, okay, you can talk to anybody anywhere in the world. You can do all this advanced stuff. Cool, yeah, that's stuff that you've gained. But what have you lost? Because what you lost was attention. So this person didn't have this thing. So what were they doing? What were they doing? When a person was walking down the street, what were they doing? They weren't doing this. Where was their attention? Where was their mental energy going? Right? When they're driving their car, yeah, sure, you'd say they're listening to the radio. Okay, people still listen to the radio, they have phones. But there's so many other instances and times and places where people today are doing things that people back then, not that long ago, were not doing. Like me growing up. I didn't have a phone, I still don't have a phone, but say I went and sat somewhere and waited, right? Say I was in college and I was waiting for class. I would just stand out there, okay? Or sit out there. And I didn't smoke, I didn't have a phone, so what did I do? I thought about things. I wondered things, right? Because my idea is the thing that was lost from here to there is imagination. It was imagination. You develop your imagination through nothingness, through being, quote, bored, by having nothing to really focus on but your ideas. You're focusing on your ideas. You're not focusing on some Instagrammer posting their butt, or like what celebrity did, or what blah blah blah, whatever people are doing on their phones all the time, playing some game. I don't know. You weren't doing this. You were here. You were in your own mental space, thinking about your life, yourself, your ideas, what you want to do. You were using your own local software, using your own local storage, right? And then now everyone's jacked into this cloud. They're not using their local storage. They're just using they're using their local processing. No, actually they're not using their local processing. They're just like a headless terminal, right? If you know the computing terms, right? So back then, we were using our own local processor, our own local memory, processing things, right? Creating things with ideas. We could access the internet, right? So like I access the internet, but I do all my processing in here. I'm not like going on the internet looking for validation, looking for all this stuff like I know a lot of people now do. I keep it local. I go outside. I take my sketchbook. I'm not interfacing with technology. I'm interfacing with my imagination, which then when I hone my ideas, then I go back to the technology and then I just do what I want, right? But back like to the current time, like I'll draw it if you don't know what it is. So let's draw the two sides again. So here's your own computer. And I know people are starting, or really a lot of people don't even have computers anymore. They just have phones and tablets, right? But this is a basic computer with the mouse and a happy man on it, right? Okay, so this is connected to the internet, right? There's servers bouncing stuff around, information, the internet, right? But here in your local computer, you have your own CPU, you have your own memory, you have your own hard drive, you have your own GPU, you have all this stuff, right? Okay, you're accessing the internet. So like a headless terminal, whatever computer, you can use these now. Sometimes they're quite useful, but you have a display, right? You could have the same happy looking person. You can have a keyboard, a rough keyboard, and you can have a mouse, right? But when you're using the headless terminal thing, you're not using your own CPU. You're not using your own memory. You're not using your own hard drive. You're not using your own GPU. You just have the minimum of this stuff available, so then you can jack into these cloud computers that have super powerful CPUs and memories and tons of hard drive space and GPUs, right? So you're just using the bare minimum, and then you're just tapping into this stuff and using it, right? So this is my idea about imagination. So I believe imagination in the modern times here in America at least has been lost. Imagination is lost. And I see it through the supposed creativity that people are displaying in all mediums and genres that I see out there on the internet. Seems to me, you can say what you want about me, but I am an imaginative person. Like, super imaginative. I'll challenge anybody to an imagination battle. I'll take on 20 modern day 5-year-olds who use iPads all day, and I'll decimate them creatively. I'll just be like, what, son? I'll be like, come up with a new idea. They'll be like, Batman, Superman with a carrot. And I'm like, come on. But anyway, enough me bragging about my super creativity, ultimate imagination. It's easy today to dominate for me because nobody has any ideas, because they lack imagination, because they're not using it, because they're allowing the phone to think for them. It's like, how do you get back to it, right? See my example? Hope you understand it. So in my day, like, if I wondered in old times, pre-phone, let's go day 0, and then day 99. This is today. This is today, right? If I wanted to think about a cobra, this is a cobra. Wah, fangs. Wah, it's cobra. You can tell, right? A cobra fighting a shark. Wah. If I wanted to think about a cobra fighting a shark, as a young lad, you know what I would do? I would use my imagination. I would think about it. I would wonder and just like, well, what would that be like? And in my own mind, I had to create the image of a cobra and create the image of a shark, and what would they do? And I'd think about it. Maybe I'd draw my own little crappy pictures about what it looked like. And I was using my imagination to figure this out. Like, what is this, right? So through this practice, it gave me the skill of using my mind to generate imagery, generate something kind of new and different, and then later on, through using these different technological tools like I do through animation or film or music or now games, I'm able to realize my imagined ideas and make them become a reality and share them with you, right? Okay. So now today, if I was a kid, and I'm not saying I'm better than everyone because I have an imagination, I don't use a phone. If I was a kid today, I'd probably be like all the kids today and have an iPad and a phone and have no imagination. So what would I do today? Okay, if I wanted to think about a cobra and a shark fighting, I'd just go to YouTube and type it in, right? And then I'd see some super high res detailed CG animation that someone created for clickbait money of a cobra versus shark versus, right? And my imagination would end there because it's like, oh, there it is. Oh, it looks really, really realistic. Okay, there's blood. There's okay. Oh, I guess shark wins, right? And so now I totally missed out on this opportunity to use my imagination, flex my ideas and my creativity and my imagination. I missed out because it's just there, right? So how do you get back to having an imagination? How do you get back to that place? Well, it's quite easy, my friends, people out there. That thing that you have in your hand that you're just like touching a million times a day and you're just like, and you use it for like your best friend and your lover, you know, if you watch pornography on it, and your excitement and everything, and like this is your whole life. Just realize that what you're doing, in my opinion, You know, I can't go into the neurological, biological aspects. That's not my area, but I'm an expert in imagination, ideas, and creativity. That's my place. That's where I thrive. That's what I've been spending all my time and energy on all these years. So if you want to be good at that stuff, if you want to get your imagination back and be able to use it, you need to reject this thing and use it as little as possible. If possible, don't use it at all. If you don't have to, you don't have to. Just because everyone else does it doesn't mean you have to. So that is because this thing just robs you of your imagination. What it's really doing is stealing your imagination, because the companies behind the apps and the websites and stuff that make money. How do you draw money? Is this money? That's money. Use your imagination. Oh, you can't? I'm sorry. I'll have to render a full 3D, awesome, realistic money thing and write money underneath it. Do you remember did you ever see my animation badassery? You ever wonder why underneath, like, basic items, it said the name of them underneath? That was my little, like, joke about people not having imagination. So if I rendered something really shitty, they wouldn't be able to tell what it was. So that was my, like, inside, like, little joke. Now you know. But, yeah. The thing that was lost in the phone age was imagination, which I believe is very, 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 very important for a number of different ways for you as a human being. So I say reject this thing. Down with the mobile phone. And you may say, oh, what am I be some caveman? What am I gonna do if I can't, like, talk to the people I know instantly at all times? I need to know about their bowel movements and what they're eating and where and who they're with and what happened, what they saw, and I need to see live stream 4K video of it at all times. It's like, well, you can do that, but you're never gonna have an imagination. And without an imagination, you know, I think that's where, you know, it really gave the power to the NPC meme. And it's because, okay, you lack imagination, right? You have no imagination, which that also ties into critical thinking. And when I was showing you that example about the terminal computer, not a head, this terminal has a head, the head's the monitor. When you're this terminal computer, right, you're not doing any local processing, you're just taking things in. So that's kind of what's happened now with people lacking imagination and critical thinking because of overuse of the phones and this technology. So they'll just, like, they cannot process locally. They don't have an imagination. Like, you know, if you can see their brain shrink, it's probably like this, like in their head, you know? And then this is probably, what, like apps? That's like emoticons, or what do they call them? I don't even know, emojis, right? Hey there! And like likes and stuff are in here, and Mark Zuckerberg's in here, right? So you think about what that does over time, you can see it in your world, then people don't even think anymore. Because why do I need to think? Like, the phone thinks for me. I'm just this, like, terminal. I don't do any processing here. The processing's done somewhere else. All I do is react. So you can send me lies and tell me what you want me to believe, and I'll just be all, heard there, okay, phone said so, look at the headline, look at the video, duh. And yeah, no imagination, no critical thinking, not a good place. So yeah, now I want to hear your thoughts on this. So if you think about the time before phones and the time after phones. So, like the example I posed that before, and you know, before someone goes, well, in the past, look at this picture of these people on the train holding newspapers. Yeah, people use newspapers, but did they walk around talking into their newspaper? Did they drive their car watching moving videos on a newspaper? No. So, you know, I know that's kind of something like an example that phone addicted people want to show people, like, look, I'm fine, everything's fine, it's the same as always was. But it's like, no, it wasn't. People weren't talking into their newspapers. The only people that talked in their newspapers were severely mentally ill. So unless you want to compare yourself to a severely mentally ill person, something was lost. Oh, this is the phone. We're supposed to be looking at it. So there was the time before phones, and there's time after phones. So what was lost? What were these people doing that these people are not doing? Because when you're looking into a device, interfacing with it, you're not doing the same kind of free thought. It's focused thought. You're trying to achieve a goal. It's making sounds. It's showing you animations. Stimulating dopamine releases in your brain. It's a whole different thing. So what was lost? What's the difference here? What do you think? Do you think it was imagination like I think it is? What do you think it was? I want to hear your thoughts because something was lost. There was time and energy here that was spent on something else that it's not being spent here. So, yeah, okay, I talked long enough. Until next time, I'm Dr. Strange saying goodbye.